Jonathan Kuminga is still turning down offers from the Golden State Warriors. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to play Russian roulette. What happens with each of the remaining restricted free agents and some of the bigger name free agents still left out on the market? We're going to talk about all that. Plus, EuroLeague is saying that the NBA does not have to create a new league in Europe, that they're willing to pair with the NBA. Will EuroLeague and the NBA join forces? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And one of the things that are still left hanging out is what's going to happen with restricted free agents Quentin Grimes, Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, and Cam Thomas, right? There's a lot of things that are going on around these guys. Reportedly, Cam Thomas and Jonathan Kuminga got fresh new offers from their reported teams. Reportedly, the Golden State Warriors offered a short-term deal to Jonathan Kuminga that was worth about 2 years, $45-ish million when it came down to that. And that Jonathan Kuminga had still turned that down. He is still not willing to sign a new deal with the Golden State Warriors. And reportedly, he did have an offer on the table of upwards of $90 million from the Sacramento Kings in a sign and trade scenario as well. Jonathan Kuminga continues to turn down the Golden State Warriors offers. And, you know, it comes down to it, like we heard that the Kings and the Phoenix Suns both had solid, firm offers on the table for the services of the talented forward. But there's some doubt overall about them having assets that the Golden State Warriors are interested in. Reportedly, Devin Carter, DeMar DeRozan, they were both, things or players that were offered in signing trades for Jonathan Kuminga. The Golden State Warriors reportedly have turned both those deals down. And so it just sits right now where Jonathan Kuminga is in a stalemate with his franchise in the Golden State Warriors, and there's just no quite understanding of what exactly is going to happen here. 2 years, $45 million proposal. Just seems like it's not something that Kuminga really wants right now. And so, you know, it's getting to the point to where it just seems like Jonathan Kuminga is not going to accept any offer from the Golden State Warriors. And if it is, it's probably going to be the qualifying offer then to move on from that team. Again, that's kind of just my thinking on that. That's not been reported anywhere, but just me reading the tea leaves, it really does feel like Jonathan Kuminga is just over it right now with the Golden State Warriors. He doesn't want to return to a place that has had him there, that Steve Kerr just doesn't have the vision for Jonathan Kuminga, or Kuminga doesn't fit in what he wants him to do, that Kuminga is ready for a fresh new start with a new team. Or is it going to be that if he does stay with Golden State, they're going to have to make a more sizable, large offer when it comes down to that? And that's the question there. The question is that would he stay on a contract that is more closer to that $30 million that he reportedly wants? And it seems like as of right now, he's not. So when you're looking at like a Jonathan Kuminga, the fact that, you know, he's likely to get benched, those type of things, if he does sign with the Golden State Warriors, I just see this ending in a sign and trade. Now, I don't know if it's the Phoenix Suns. I don't know if it's Sacramento Kings. But if Jonathan Kuminga gets a new contract outright, I think it's going to have to be a sign and trade. If he goes back to the Golden State Warriors, to me, it's going to be on the qualifying offer so he can enter unrestricted free agency next season, and he's just going to have to suffer through whatever the Golden State Warriors have planned or not planned for him next season. Again, that's my thought process on it. We'll see if it's right. We'll see if it's wrong, but you guys can let me know how you feel on it down below. With everything going on around Jonathan Kuminga, do you see any world in which Kuminga returns to the Golden State Warriors on a longer-term deal, or do you see, like me, that's probably, if he does return there, it smells like qualifying offer? Let me know what you guys think on that one down below. With that said, there also seems to be another deal on the table for Cam Thomas in which he got offered a 2-year deal worth $14 million annually with the team option in the second year. First of all, I get it that Cam Thomas is a young player, that the team hasn't done a lot of winning with Cam Thomas on it. But the fact that a 2-year deal at $14 million annually AAV, that just seems like such an undercut for a player that can put up scoring like the way that Cam Thomas has shown over his NBA career. And I actually think last season, Cam Thomas showed himself to be more than just a chucker last season as well, which I'm not going to lie to you. That's kind of initially where I was with Cam Thomas coming into last season. I thought he was a player that, yeah, sure, put up points, but was more of a chucker than that. I think he showed himself to be more clutch in some games last year. Now, the Nets overall weren't that good, right? But I do think that that's the thing that you're looking at. Now, I don't think he's going to get anywhere near. Reportedly, he wants to be paid close to Emmanuel Quickly, which was a 5-year, $162 million deal. I don't think he's going to get that. What's the average of 32-ish million, something like that? I don't think he's going to get that. I do think Cam could get between like 15, 18 million per year. Personally, that's where it feels like things are going to be for him right now. But when it comes down to it, man, I think that Cam Thomas, while I said that I could see Jonathan Kuminga accepting the qualifying offer, I think this thing is headed absolutely for the qualifying offer for Cam Thomas. I think that he is likely going to just take the 1-year tender. He's going to go back into the free agency, let the 2025-6 season play out, and then he's going to go back into free agency next year and be an unrestricted free agent and not have to worry about this. And we'll see. He may lose money in the long run. I do think that there is a chance that overall, of course, there's always risk of getting hurt or other things like that, or the Nets just not playing him a lot with all the guards they got. But I think Cam Thomas is, and it's from what I've heard and felt, is that it seems like Cam Thomas and his agency are fine taking the qualifying offer and pushing. Now, Jeff Teague has come out recently and said that that the $14 million a year offer isn't a slap in the face, saying this: when you get put in that role, you always get underpaid. Lou Williams got underpaid his whole career. You never see the scorers just come off the bench, 6-man, just straight scoring specialist, get super paid. It's rare you see that. Like Jamal Crawford was a great player, but he got paid when he was a starter. When he got the 6-man of the year, I think the most he got was 15 to 14 million. You would think somebody like him with the scoring potential, you would think that they made 25 million per year, and then you look and it's like, damn, they only got that. So we'll see what happens, man. I do think there's more money out there for Cam Thomas. I also think he's not a guy that's a bench scorer, kind of like Jeff Teague is talking about there. But I see that this thing with Cam Thomas personally ending in him signing the qualifying offer with the Brooklyn Nets, being there one more season, going back out on free agency next year. Again, my personal opinion. Next up, Quentin Grimes. What's going to happen with Quentin Grimes? And it's an interesting thing, right? Because Quentin Grimes has absolutely had periods of his career where he's been highly productive, but nothing like how he finished last season on. And part of the reason and doubt for that end of season run is that everybody else on the Philadelphia 76ers was injured. That roster was completely depleted and wiped out by the time that Grimes really went on that run where he averaged over 20 points per game, right? Now, reportedly, the asking price Quentin Grimes has been asking is $20 million per year range. That was reported at the start of free agency. And that, we'll see what happens there. But overall, right now, the 76ers are $21.6 million away from the second tax apron, which means they can still pay him, but and remain under the second tax apron, so that option is there. But it seems like maybe they're looking for it to be a little bit cheaper than that, more towards the $15 to $17 million range. I think Quentin Grimes ultimately does re-sign with the Philadelphia 76ers. I think that he's going to sign a deal that's probably worth about $15.5 million per year annual average value. It may be a little bit shorter. Maybe it's a 2+1, something like that, rather than full 5 years. But that's what I expect to happen here with Quentin Grimes. And I do think he'll be back with the 76ers. I think the 76ers are at a place where they're going to want to maintain any talent, especially talent that they have the control over keeping. And we'll see. I mean, it's going to be an interesting rotation with the Philadelphia 76ers too, with like Maxey and Edgecombe and Paul George if he's healthy, and you got McCain also who's healthy. Like that 1-2-3 area that's going to be like a kind of a log jam there for him. But Kelly Oubre Jr. is going to play there some too. So I think they'll have to figure it out. But this is a team in the 76ers that I think are primed and ready to have a new young nucleus. And then, depending on what happens with Joel Embiid, and I don't think they're going to let a player like Quentin Grimes go quite yet. One of the biggest players in conversation as well has been Josh Giddey. Now, I don't talk a lot about the Josh Giddey situation here because this is NBA Central. Many know I do run Chicago Bulls Central, where I talk about the Bulls daily. So I try to keep the Bulls topics a little separate here. But it'd be remiss if I'm talking about the restricted free agent situation and leave out one of the major restricted free agents that's still out there on the market, Josh Giddey. And what's going on with the Chicago Bulls? Reportedly, the Bulls and Josh Giddey have both refused to budge off where they are. Josh Giddey wants $30 million. The Bulls are offering more, a deal worth $20 million annually, right? And so the number of years seems like it's a thing that's around there too. I do think that Josh Giddey can get a 4-year deal around $100 million. So I do think he's going to probably settle around $24.5 million deal for the Chicago Bulls on probably 3 or 4 years is probably what I'll expect. The Bulls, for the first time since this new front office is taking over, is actually negotiating, which is kind of a rarity for this front office. But I do think that that's probably what you're looking at, is getting around $24.5 million for Josh Giddey, kind of the in-between mark between where the team is and where Josh Giddey is. And I do think that maybe some incentives are going to be in that deal, or it's going to be a shorter deal. And I think that's just where you stand at when it comes to Josh Giddey, a player that came in, played really well for the Chicago Bulls on the back half of the season, started off the season with with an injury and wasn't quite himself, on top of Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic still being there, stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with it. But I think that this thing is still going to end in Josh Giddey getting a new deal with Chicago. I just think it may be a 3 or 4 year deal rather than the full 5-year deal when it all comes down to it. So that's what it looks out for there. Seems like other kind of big name free agents, Russell Westbrook, more outlets are reporting that he's on his way to the Kings once they kind of clear up a roster spot for him to come into there. So look out for that one. One of the other interesting ones that I think we should talk about is Malik Beasley. I don't think Malik Beasley is going to get a deal until after this this gambling investigation is finished. So I do think that you're probably going to see Malik Beasley more so join a team maybe around mid-season of this year, which could be a fairly nice mid-season acquisition for a team when it comes down to that. So look out for that, because I don't think this investigation is going to be over with anytime soon, and thus I don't think you're going to see Malik Beasley sign even after coming off the season that he had, the passionate and great season that he had. I just don't necessarily see that happening for him. So he'll probably be a guy that around mid-season is probably where you're going to see him come out on top when it comes down there. And Ben Simmons, I guess, is the other guy. I really see Ben Simmons going to the Celtics, man, especially with the Kings kind of moving on. The Celtics seem like a team that would be willing to bring in Ben Simmons. He can have a little bit of a role there, and we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think on the restricted free agents, any other free agents that are out there that you think could end up going a different place. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Last topic before we get out of here. The EuroLeague CEO, I'm not even going to do him the injustice of killing his name, so I'm not even going to do that. But the CEO of EuroLeague did talk a little bit about the NBA, and the NBA planning on creating a new league out in Europe. And while the NBA and the EuroLeague have not necessarily always had the best relationship, there reportedly was a productive meeting that did happen a little while ago to where they could end up being a partner with the NBA on a league in Europe, saying this. This comes from the CEO. Listen, it was a positive meeting. It was the first time out of many years that everybody was at the same table, and we do need to thank FIBA for being the middle and trying to put everybody on the same page. What we've heard is the same as what is publicly known, that they're in exploration mode and that they're trying to see how and what. We said to them, like we said publicly, we don't believe that a new league is something that would help the market. So if we left with an open mind saying that we're ready to collaborate, the question is how and when. We keep growing, we keep doing our homework and maximizing the game of basketball in Europe. So I believe that only helps all sides. And as a next step, I believe we'll have another meeting, I would say around September or during September, to sit down and hopefully get into a deeper discussion of analyzing how we can work together. I watch a lot of basketball. I watch a lot of EuroLeague basketball, Eurobasket. I'm probably going to be doing some episodes here, find a way to do that during it. But EuroLeague has done a lot to grow the game, and they've done a lot to actually grow their product as well. And if the NBA truly does want to expand out in Europe, I do think that a partnership with the EuroLeague and to take advantage of the groundwork that they've already done could very well help that. Now, the question comes down to the money, and that's going to be the biggest thing here. It may not be talked about here, but that's going to be the biggest thing here. It's going to come down to the money, because the NBA is going to want a huge portion of that money, and EuroLeague, rightfully so too, is going to want their portion of the money. So while it makes a lot of sense, both synergistically, and other things that you have to, the money is the all determining factor in things like this, because when you start splitting the pie, that's when people start looking at what size of the pie that they have, right? But either way, if both sides, I should say, the NBA and EuroLeague come to the table with the right mind, if the NBA were to expand in Europe, they're already going to have a split part of the pie because EuroLeague is already established. Unless you plan on playing when the EuroLeague is off season, there's going to be some of that anyway. And the EuroLeague too. If the NBA comes into your market with the money that they would be able to throw at things, you should be worried about how that cuts into your pie. So both sides should be willing to sit down and do business and discuss it. Will it get done is the question here. And I think that what the NBA can offer in structure, right, in architecture, in that type of thing, that is the important part of this, because they're coming in with deals with ESPN and everyone else, whereas EuroLeague is just getting on ESPN this year. That could help overcome that some as well. NBA TV being another thing also. So we'll see what happens here. I'm glad to hear that both sides have sat down and talked. I'm glad to hear that that's even something that's on the table potentially is EuroLeague working with the NBA on instead of creating a whole new league out in Europe. I do think that can introduce fans to a whole new thing. Now, the question about that would be, though, is how would that affect Euro players coming over into the NBA, which is probably another part of all of this that needs to be discussed as well. And I guess we shall see. But let me know what you guys think down below, especially for those that actually watch EuroLeague basketball. What do you think about the prospect of them pairing with the NBA on the new league rather than the NBA create its own European league? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. Do you send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns? NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related. Catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.